Mr. Vaughn. Thank you.
Chairman Chapman and Commissioners, I'm Steve Vaughn, 6 White Mesa Trail in Placitas. I'm the Vice President of Anasazi Homeowners Association. I'm a property owner in Sundance. I'm a member of ESCA, Eastern Sandoval Citizens Association, and I am an intervenor in the lawsuit that the county filed, along with Dick Ulmer, and we are also authorized representatives of ESCA in connection with the settlement of this lawsuit. About 4 years ago, we met with, at that time, Lafarge and the owner of the property, and they told us they intended to mine this property to the edges, and they were going to do it for as long as it took to get the property mined out. We didn't like that. I don't think there's a single homeowner in Placitas or a property owner in Placitas that would be unhappy if Vulcan, Lafarge, Calmat were gone tomorrow. But that's not going to happen because in 1988 they got a non-conformance certificate, and that non-conformance certificate was extended by grandfathering in about 2009 by the county under its current zoning laws. So we had a problem, and with some effort on our part and the cooperation of the county, a lawsuit was filed because they were violating, we thought, and still believe, the terms of the non-conformance certificate they were granted in 1988. That's where this lawsuit all came about. When they originally made an offer of settlement, the operator, it was 15 years. We're now down to 9 years and 9 months. The county had negotiated, the county attorneys had negotiated a settlement essentially without our participation, got it down to 13 years, I believe, whatever it was. We didn't like it. We demonstrated here before the commission. I'm not sure you'd call it a demonstration, but it was a big turnout. And with the cooperation of the commission, that settlement was rejected. And finally, we got participation in the negotiation process, and we got them down to 9 years and 9 months. Is that the best that could possibly be done? Well, no. We'll never know in terms of a settlement whether that's the best that could be done. We do know we could have gone to trial. If we had gone to trial, if we had won on every issue, they'd still be mining. They'd still be mining for the 3 or 4 years or however long it took to appeal this case to the Court of Appeals and to appeal this case to the Supreme Court, because we can't afford the bond it would take to get them shut down immediately. They would continue mining for as long as it took to get the appeals done. So instead of 4 years, 5 years, however long the appeals would be, if we won on every issue, we're now at a point where we've got an agreement that will start tonight if you sign this agreement for 9 years and 9 months. 9 years of mining, 9 more months of reclamation. We believe that's a good deal for our community and for Sandoval County. A good deal relative to what would happen if it did not occur. One of the reasons, in addition to the fact that the time starts running tonight, if it's approved tonight, is that we would not be spending $10,000, $15,000. Mr. Salazar is sitting in the back of the room here, and he may be smiling inside because I bet you on Vulcan's side it would be a lot more than $10,000 or $15,000 a month. But we know that's how much we would be spending to get this case ready for trial, because there are deadlines that we've got to meet. We can't put them off any longer. We put them off some in order to get this settlement done, but we can't put them off any longer. We're going to have to start getting ready for trial if the settlement is not approved promptly tonight, because The trial is
Yes,
in October.
we've spent already around $60,000 on this case, and just to get through the disclosure process that was coming at us would have cost us easily another $40,000, and then we got to get ready for trial. So
This is kind of a unique situation here, but we would always ask for the department head to give a recommendation, a staff recommendation. So I'd like to ask county attorney to weigh in on this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. As you know, we have been working diligently to try to come to a settlement that leaves everybody with as much as possible in terms of what they wanted to get, and that was no easy feat. In fact, it took getting rid of all the lawyers in the room in order to get this agreement done. And that's how it worked out. So I understand that we can be a little bit obstructionist sometimes. That being said, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, I'm appealing to you to please consider voting for this. My recommendation is that you accept the settlement, or that you vote on the settlement agreement, and that you agree to the settlement agreement. I believe it represents the best option for the county and for the people of Sandoval County. There are other considerations that I consider when I'm looking at this, and why do it tonight versus putting it off a little bit. There are a lot of deadlines that are coming up, as Mr. Huff alluded to, and while maybe other people aren't considering the cost, I do consider the cost of going in and continuing those depositions and that litigation, especially when we've got a very good settlement agreement where all the parties are already signed onto. We're the last parties on this, and everyone else has already agreed. I'm not saying that everybody's happy with the outcome. I would say everybody compromised and worked very hard, gave up some things that they didn't want to give up. I apologize to the commission, Commissioner Block and Commissioner Eichwald, for not being able to get this settlement agreement to you sooner. My understanding is that as of Monday, there were still some final wording and signatures and things getting done with it, so it wasn't actually finalized. I didn't get it until I believe it was Wednesday. Mea culpa. I don't know what else to offer for you except for an apology on that part, but I would ask that you not hold up passing or hopefully agreeing to this settlement agreement because of that.
Sandy Johnson from Placitas.
Oh, yes, Ms. Johnson.
3 Catherine Court. Oh, you know me.
Well, I got your phone call today. Sorry.
That was another Johnson, actually.
Oh, okay.
But I talked to Jay Block a couple days ago because I am the president of Las Placitas, and I got at least 8 phone calls and a couple emails saying, can we have more time? Do we know what this agreement really does for us? And I've looked through it a couple times, and a couple of questions that pop up that I'll parrot what I've been asked is, I don't see anything in there about the hours of operation, and I don't see anything about dust mitigation and that sort of thing. Is that spelled out anywhere? Secondarily, is it going to cost anything if we take a couple weeks and get the rest of the questions out and get them answered before we sign off on the agreement? That's
Sure.
what people are asking for.
And I think our attorney here can probably address those questions for you, ma'am.
Thank you for your questions. Just to address that straight up, that is not going to be in the agreement. The hours of operation and dust, that's an environmental aspect, and the same as the hours of operation. So those are outside the jurisdiction of the county. That's one thing that's really good about this settlement is it does do work that's outside of the law. It's outside of what a lawsuit could get for us. But unfortunately, that hasn't been incorporated into this settlement agreement because you have that within NMED's requirements, or I should say, authority. Does that answer your question?
So what we're saying is that the way things are operating right now will continue. The settlement has nothing to do except with the stop date and the reclamation. Is that what I heard?
So, yes, that's correct. The hours of operation would likely continue. Again, that would be not within the county's authority.
Okay.
A couple of things. Call it mediation, call it settlement, call it what you want. This is one of those situations where you walk out of the room and it's a question of who is the least sad. And the reason why is it's a compromise. And not everybody's going to get what they want. Even the folks that were here tonight saying, gee, I haven't seen the document, I haven't read the document, they're not getting what they want. The folks that helped negotiate this deal, the interveners, they're not getting what they want. I assure you, they wanted a better deal than this. The county is the party that originally brought this lawsuit. Let me repeat that. The county is the party that originally brought this lawsuit. So now, gentlemen, you got to really think twice about whether you want to go back on what this county did from the get-go in filing the lawsuit on this site. Now, a little bit of background I think is important. This mining operation out there has been done by several different owners, but it's been in operation for 4.5 decades. What these folks have negotiated for themselves is an end time to this. It's not what they wanted. They wanted a shorter period. They wanted a quicker end time. In my mind, they got a deal that we risk not having happen simply because you've been elected, you've been in a position to make a tough decision. And sometimes those tough decisions require you to go against what you feel inside your heart. And I understand that. But that's what you're getting paid the big bucks to do. You can't please everybody. And I assure you, when we get our oil and gas ordinance, there's going to be some people that aren't going to be happy. So you got to really think, do you want to run the risk of throwing litigation that's been going on for several years now down the drain, and all the hard work that's been put in by these folks in Placitas to improve their quality of life and have an end time for this operation out there? And just remember one thing, the folks that are operating the mine have agreed to this. That's important to think about. They've agreed to this. Yeah, there's going to be a few folks out there in Placitas that are not happy. And I don't want to guess what the outcome would be if this settlement agreement falls through. But I think it's safe to say that the mining would continue. At least with this agreement, there's a date in the future where the people that live in Placitas know that this is going to end. The place is going to be reclaimed, and it's going to be put back to somewhat near its natural state. I think it's behooves this commission to really think deeply for a few minutes about what we're talking about doing tonight, knowing how many people have put in their time and effort and not to mention dug into their wallets to help make this happen. And I'm going to say it one more time. I don't want to be redundant, but just remember the county was the complainant in this litigation. And to not support this settlement means that you are going against the litigation that we originally brought. I think that's an important thing to think about. One other factor is this. If we don't agree to this settlement tonight, and we're the only ones that haven't signed it yet, both parties have signed it. Both parties have agreed to it. Some gentlemen came in from, one came from Seattle, one came from Phoenix, I believe, representing the mining operations. They were in the room. They worked with Mr. Vaughn and Mr. Ulmer to strike this deal. If you've never put together a settlement agreement like this, putting together the document in as short a time as was done is a miraculous thing, frankly. And getting it signed off on. And that is one of the reasons why this document arrived so late, is because after the settlement was agreed to, then you have to construct the document and get all the deal points in there and get everybody to sign off on them. So that's a little bit of a challenge in itself, just getting the deal across the line. It bothers me to think this commission, knowing how much has been done to get this thing across the line, would say, nah, I'm not going to support it. So I would like to, if there's no other discussion, and I hope there's not, I would like to entertain a motion to approve this settlement. And if you don't want to approve it, then you can say so. But think about your responsibility, I would say, as an elected official, knowing that we were the complainant originally, and the Placitas folks got involved because they wanted to try and get this thing across the line, and they have. And I just think it would be wrong to pull back and not support them. Yes, there's going to be some folks who aren't going to be happy. But I got to tell you what, these folks are not going to be happy no matter what, because the mining will continue without a settlement agreement. With the settlement agreement, the mining eventually ends. So I'll entertain a motion. I'm going to make a motion that we approve agenda item number 12, the settlement agreement between Vulcan and Sandoval County and the interveners from Placitas. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second for agenda item number 12.
Vice Chair Heil?
Yes.
Commissioner Eichwald?
No.
Commissioner Block?
No.
Chair Chapman?
Chair votes yes. Unfortunately, we don't have a commissioner from District 1 that can vote on this.
So at this point, it fails for lack of a...
Majority.
I'd like to make a comment that